Hey guys, welcome back to our podcast, A Court of Heaven and Hell. I'm Lauren, aka Heaven.
And I'm Ellie, also known as Hell.
And if you don't already know, we are a book podcast that focuses on different romantasy series and novels. We are currently reading A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. And today we will be continuing our coverage with chapters 44 through 50. The episode will include plot summaries of each chapter, as well as discussions about characters, events, foreshadowing, world building themes, and more before we finish off with any possible theories and Maasverse connections. Last week, we spoke about the battle at Adriata, Nesta becoming the emissary to the human realms, and the introduction to the High Lord meeting. Now I want to go ahead and give a spoiler warning. We are fully diving in, so we may need to speak about the other books in this series. If you have not finished her other works, you will be okay to listen until the theories portion, where we'll go ahead and give another spoiler warning. However, if you have not read all 5 books in the ACOTAR series, you want to go ahead and save this video and come back and talk with us when you're done.
Please see our show notes for content and trigger warnings. We are an adult podcast. Check out our past episodes. We have deep dived into the rest of the Sarah J. Maasverse, as well as other popular romantasy novels. Lastly, take some time to rate and review us, or if you're watching this video on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe and let us know your thoughts in the comments. And now let's get into Wings and Ruin.
Let's do it.
Starting with chapter 44, with Tamlin's unannounced arrival, everyone is on edge and you can cut the tension in the air with a knife. He takes a few jabs at Feyre's dignity before realizing that she is indeed the High Lady of the Night Court. He blames Feyre for Hybern taking over the Spring Court, and then people begin pointing fingers at each other. Callias asks him why the fuck he's here, and he says he wants to help to fight against Hybern. He shows them intel on Hybern, and everyone is still very wary of him. Tamlin then asks why everyone believes Rhysand when he could also be working for Hybern. Tamlin continues to be angry and says Feyre is spoiled goods, so Rhysand chokes him with his magic. Chapter 45. The room is still, and Rhysand tells everyone that if he was on Hybern's side, he would just go into their minds and make them join the war. Tarquin mentions how the Night Court are the only ones who came to help, and for that, the blood rubies are called off. There is so much tension in the air still, and Baron asks where Lucien is. Eris says Moore dresses like a slut, and Azriel attacks him. After everyone settles the fuck down finally, they all get down to business. A woman from Thesen's court joins who ends up being an alchemist. Lucien sent her a sample of Faebane, and she thinks she found an antidote. Rhysand agrees that he, his court, and his armies will take it, as Baron has some pushback but ultimately agrees. Tamlin still has some stuff to say, though, about how his court is failing due to Feyre leaving it in shambles. Helion says the Spring Court needs to be evacuated, but his neighbors should provide safe shelter. Baron, of course, resists, but Tarquin offers his court. Baron continues to be awful, as he says he doesn't want to defend the humans, and that it's funny Feyre now cares about them, considering she gave Claire's name and her family died. Whoops. He's not done yet, as he insults Rhysand's experience with Amarantha, calls Cassian a bastard, and Feyre explodes with flame. Chapter 46. Feyre has a meltdown and goes after Baron. Rhysand calms her down, and she apologizes to the Lady of Autumn, who was accidentally hurt. Nesta chimes in and gives a noble speech about why they should fight against Hybern, sharing her story of going in the Cauldron. It seems to resonate some, even a bit to Baron, who leaves and says he will think about his stance. But the High Lords are really concerned that Feyre has some of their powers, so it's time again for another noble speech from Feyre. After she's done, all the High Lords who are still present stand up and pledge their alliance against Hybern.
Chapter 47. Finally agreeing to work together, the meeting continues with topics switching to plans of moving forward. But the bickering continues. Everyone is weary of sharing too much because Tamlin is present, and with Baron not being present, they are worried about what side he will eventually choose. Callias shares as much information as he can with Rhys and vice versa, while Moore promises to keep eyes on Vivane. Back in their private quarters in the Dawn Castle, the inner circle addresses what happened at the meeting. Helion comes by the suite and reveals that he was very much putting on a show and that he and the Night Court have been good friends through the years. Feyre has many questions for him about many things, including his affair with the Lady of Autumn, also known as Baron's wife. From this, Feyre is able to put together something that neither Rhys or Helion never even considered, which shocks Rhys. They decide it is best kept a secret for now. Nesta comes in during their conversation, insisting something is wrong but doesn't know what. The Bat Boys go to check on everything and make sure it's secure. Finding nothing out of place, they return and decide to stay. After a dinner with the Night Court, Winter Court, and Day Court, everyone disperses to their rooms, with more joining Helion. Feyre questions Rhys about this and her relationship with Az, and he tells her it's better if he minds his own business. Coming to the realization that she's sharing a roof with both Rhys and Tamlin, Feyre talks about how it makes her feel and decides she just wants to be held by Rhys for the night, and they go to sleep. In chapter 48, the next day, everyone is exhausted from the chaos that was Moore and Helion, but they get ready and head back into the negotiations. Tensions are still high, and we find out that Tamlin's armies were greatly affected by Feyre's actions at the Spring Court. While he's speaking, Nesta leaps out of her seat, suddenly unwell. No one knows what's wrong, thinking she may have been poisoned, but she says the issue isn't with her. It's the cauldron. The King of Hybern used it to destroy the wall. In chapter 49, a lot of things happen quickly and everyone leaves within minutes. Thiessen promises to supply everyone with the antidote and have his aerial legion prepare to join the Illyrians. Tarquin, Callias, and Helion prepare their land soldiers, and the latter tells Tamlin to gather his people and bring them to him as soon as he can. Back at the townhouse, they wonder about the best actions to take for the human land. Elaine suggests sending them to the Grayson estate and explains how it has been designed to keep out Fae. Believing she is the only one who can convince him, she prepares to go. It seems like Nesta is still shaken up and exhibiting odd behavior, but Cassian makes sure she knows how to protect herself from the humans, as he and Rhys will be going to speak with the Illyrians instead. Feyre goes to gather Amren, who is pissed that Hybern is seemingly beating them. Her specifically. Feyre is still worried about what the King of Hybern said to Rhys, and knowing he would sacrifice himself if it meant winning the war, tells Amren she needs her help striking another bargain with Bryaxis. She does not want to and considers Feyre foolish, but Feyre demands it. Finally, in chapter 50, Feyre and Amren go to the library and summon Bryaxis. It strikes a bargain with Feyre, agreeing to help as she provides it with a window so it can see the sun and the night sky. Back at the townhouse, Feyre prepares to go to the Illyrian camp, and Amren disappears to continue her research on how to nullify the cauldron and bring down the wards to allow Bryaxis out. Feyre tells Rhys about Bryaxis and the deal she struck, and he asks her about the Carver. She declares she's given up on him, and Bryaxis will have to be enough. Rhys takes one last moment to look up on the townhouse and wonder if they will ever see it again. Feyre promises him they will, but even she hopes she can make good on that promise. And just like that, they head to war. Let's go ahead and get into some character discussions. We're going to start with the High Lord meeting, obviously, beginning with Tamlin's interruption. Y'all, rereading this scene was a true joy. I love the chaos and the drama that is going on in this scene, dude. Like, I don't know if you guys listen to the graphic audio, but I listened to it in the regular audio book, and then I switched over to the graphic
Fuck.
audio and listened to the graphic audio.
That was probably so good.
I literally was like, I had to,
Damn
because
it.
every character, like, acting, oh my God, it was so funny. But I was like, just laying in my bed, dude. Normally, I'll be doing things when I'm listening to an audiobook, like whether it's like chores around the house, driving, whatever. But I was just laying there, just like imagining it in my head. And it was so funny. But yeah, no, Tamlin comes in, fucking fires burning. He is not happy with the state and everything. And he really tries to like flip things on the Night Court, which is actually like pretty smart from like his perspective. And even Rhys acknowledges that. You're finally learning. But yeah, there's a lot of things that happen just in this little short period of like him popping into the meeting and starting to tell everybody what's going on. So first off, we realize that this is the first time that Tamlin is like finding out that Feyre is High Lady of the Night Court. Like, she's not just Rhys-Anne's girlfriend or Rhys-Anne's wife. She's High Lady. And I don't think Tamlin knew that before this moment. And so that really takes him by surprise and gets his gears grinding. And he starts to call her out for the chaos that she caused in the Spring Court, just saying a bunch of sexist shit, like Ellie said, calling her all sorts of just spoiled goods and like pointing out like things to Rhys that had me like, dude, this is why you're a fucking piece of shit. This is why.
It's the way when I had to reread that, I was like, y'all, I was texting Lauren. I was like, I'm so mad. I'm angry. It made me visibly angry to read that he called her spoiled goods. Like, that is such a gross thing to say to a woman. I'm just like, literally shut the fuck up. It's like, why can men sleep with more than one person and everyone's like, "You're a hero. Oh my god." But if a woman does, she's a slut. She's spoiled goods. Like, literally fuck off. Like, fuck right off.
Yeah.
I can't. It's one
I
of my biggest pet peeves.
I will say that I feel like that is a divide amongst these group of people. Like, I feel like not everybody's on the same page with that. Obviously, Baron and Tamlin are very much on that like perspective of shit. But then you've got
Mhm.
like Helion, who's got like a completely different viewpoint of like partners
Yeah.
and the way that things like that go. And obviously Reese and the Night Court, they don't think like that. I don't think Tarquin thinks like that. So it's like very much there are some people who are progressive, and then there are some people who are very much conservative and stuck in the old way of doing things and not really letting things go and moving forward with the times. Like, hello, bro, let's get it together. First of all, you weren't married to her. Let's not forget that. Okay. She wasn't your wife. Okay. Second of all, she didn't, as she points out, which I was like, go ahead, Feyre. The sun was shining when I left you. Okay. She was like, he didn't come steal me away. He didn't sneak me out in the middle of the night. I left you and I did it like with full consent. I did not want to be with you anymore. Whether I was going to be with Reese or whatever, we as the readers know that took some time for them to get up to that point. But there is no whatever fantasy you have in your head. That was not what was happening. Me and you were never going to be a thing after what went down the first time. Like, I had already fallen out of love with you. And it just is what it is. If you don't want to be responsible for your actions, then maybe you should learn how to control them. So that's all I'm saying.
Period.
But on the other hand, as much as I love to sit here and trash Tamlin because it's really easy, I am going to defend him just for a tiny little second from a point that he makes where he's basically saying he aligned with Highburn because he was like, I have to do anything I can to get Feyre back because she's with this mind breaker dude who like tortures people, who
Mhm.
knows what he's doing to her. Like, he's known to be this evil, like, manipulator, and he definitely leans into that portrayal of himself. And so it's like when we were talking last week and you were like, Reese can't be upset that everybody believes this about him when it's literally the picture of himself that he's put out there and has wanted people to believe. But then on the same hand, I also have to point out that it's like I said a few episodes ago with the whole Jurian situation. It's like at the same time, while you're absolutely correct, and this is who Reese presents himself to be, and I do understand to an extent like why you would be worried if the person that you love ended up in the hands of this person for whatever reasons, especially with no communication letting you know that this was their decision. It's also like Jurian pointed out, where it's I knew him 500 years ago before the war. Like, I've known him for years. I know that he's not actually that person that everyone tries to pretend that he is. And Tamlin should also know this. Because of you, his mother and sister were brutally murdered by your parents, and he still saved your life. So there's a certain amount of just not adding up. I don't really believe that Tamlin believes that Reese is this terrible person, but at the same time, I feel like it is a convenient excuse for him to be like, this is a justification for my actions. And at the end of the day, you're just a punk if you had to align with Highburn to get the job done. But show up at the night court and be like, yo, what's good? You stole my wife. Like, I'm ready to go to war. But you didn't do that. So you took a punk's route and basically had somebody else go fight your battles. And now you got into bed with somebody who you can't control and has power over you. And now you're over here blaming Feyre because your court is in shambles, which she does have a part to do with that. But at the same time, you trusted the wrong person. And that is why you're in the situation that you're in now. And I don't know, have a lot of mixed feelings about that one. But at the very end of the day, he is right about there was no communication. They didn't tell him, hey, your girl doesn't want to be here anymore. But at the same time, you locked her in the house after you
Yeah.
physically.
I feel like he didn't really provide a good relationship where someone could feel comfortable and safe communicating that with him.
Yeah. No, I get it, but it would have been a little bit better if even Reese with her. She didn't have to go by herself, but if Reese and Moore had like
Yeah.
shown up with her and she had said her piece, Reese is going to be able to protect her. As we see in this meeting, Reese, none of them are fucking with Reese. Reese literally just looked at Tamlin and Tamlin couldn't speak anymore. There is no, Reese would have been able to protect. She wasn't in danger. She could have, but I understand why they didn't. I understand why her being traumatized by the whole situation, she didn't want to see Tamlin, and I respect her choice to do that too. But it
Period.
is, I see why lack of communication led him to this mental place that he's in right now because it's I don't know. That's why there's no good. It's he's not right, absolutely not right. But at the same time, it's he's got that one little point of okay, yeah, somebody dropped the ball with the communication thing there. And then she sends this letter months later. And it's a handwritten letter with no, it could have been written by anybody. Let's be real here. So it's, I don't know. I don't know. I have a certain allotment of that, but still, you made bad decision after bad decision. She left as a result of what you did. She wasn't comfortable talking to you because of how you acted. She tried to talk to you on multiple occasions. She let you know she was not comfortable with the way that you were dictating her life. She asked you to back the fuck off. She asked you to be more patient. And every time you would do it for a minute and then revert back to your old behavior. And so it's I 1000% understand Favor, and I'm always going to be on Favor's side when it comes to Tamlin. But it's just to be a little bit fair, like what he's saying in that moment is okay. I could see why he thought that, but at the same time, it's still that doesn't why would you go to the enemy? Why would you go to Amarantha's partner, this person who cursed you, held these people hostage under a mountain for 50 years, did terrible things, was aligned with this person? You go to that person to help you get them away from her. It doesn't make any sense at all to me, anyways.
I totally don't like that Feyre kind of fucked up the Spring Court. I don't like that. I don't like that. I just wish that the people who lived in the Spring Court didn't have to, like, suffer because of it.
Mhm,
Because now, obviously, the Spring Court is literally overtaken by Hybern's armies,
mhm.
and villages are literally burned down, and now they're having to straight up evacuate. So that's not cool.
Yeah.
But the thing about Tamlin, I just oh my god, it rocks me to my core again. It's just, like, the way that he talks to Feyre and about women makes me just be like, "Yeah, I can't with this guy. I just can't." The way that he says that Rhysand's her master and that he brings up how he said no when she asked if she could be High Lady, and I just it just gives me the ick.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely, like, sexist, period. Like,
100%.
definitely not
I
great. I will push back just a little bit on the whole Feyre because while I do agree that, yes, she did have short-sightedness and, like, what the things that she did at the Spring Court did cause for him to be in a messed up situation, there is also accountability that Tamlin needs to take in that situation because, A, I think I said this last week, but everything that Feyre did was using Tamlin's own weaknesses against him. She just pushed him to make bad decisions that she knew he would make, but, like, she didn't technically do anything she other than manipulate the situations to show people who he really was. And second of all, you got into bed with Hybern. Feyre didn't tell you to align with Hybern. So the fact that they torched your cities after they promised you that they wouldn't, that is on you and aligning with these people and trusting them and letting them into your lands and your court. She didn't do that. He made that decision. And so he does need to have a certain amount of because it just doesn't even make sense. Why would Hybern do that when like he's their ally?
that makes sense. I just think they obviously, Tamlin is a villain in my book, but I can't remember if she takes accountability for fucking up
She
the
does.
Supreme Court people, because that's what gets me is I don't give a shit about Tamlin,
Yeah.
to be honest, but I just feel bad for the people living there, but at the same time, he was never a good leader. He literally would make them pay fucking taxes when they had nothing. Makes absolutely no sense. He literally beat his centuries, and he also thinks Ianthe's cool.
Yeah. I like honestly believe Feyre cared more about those people than he ever did, if I'm being 100%.
That's true.
And I do
I just wish she was
sh-
thinking of them in that moment, but I
yeah.
don't know how she could have really done anything differently
Well, she didn't have to seek revenge
in a
like that.
way.
Like, she didn't have to. She didn't
Yeah,
have to do that. But at the same time, like, she was pissed because of her sisters. Like, I genuinely think if it had just been what Tamlin did to her, wouldn't have tried to sabotage him like that. But because of what he did to her sisters, like, she was in straight revenge mode. And so, like I get that, but also she does admit and acknowledge that it was her short sightedness that like hurt a lot of people. And so that is one thing that's it's like the difference between them is at least she can look at that and acknowledge that and own up to her part in it and understand that she could have done things a little bit different. But the fact of the matter is she did it. Like, and so now she has to deal with the consequences. The only thing she can do is try to fight against Hybern to try to help the people that have been. I agree with you. I wish she didn't. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that too, because it's on one hand, I'm like, it's peak entertainment. It's elite reading experience. But on the other hand, I'm like, yeah, a lot of innocent people were fucked over and their homes were destroyed and stuff. But she tried to go help rebuild those villages herself. Like she was the one who like told them that it was shit that Tamlin was trying to take money from people and helped the person that couldn't pay for that. She's the one who literally saved all of their asses by dying, by literally dying under the mountain. Like so I truly believe like Feyre's not perfect by any means, but she like cares more and has done more than Tamlin has ever done for his people. Like, just my opinion. But yeah,
No, I totally agree.
yeah,
He's a shitty fucking leader.
yeah, he has no business being in charge, and it's
He
unfortunate.
really doesn't.
Like for it's unfortunate because like
Probably
I feel
needs
like
to work
his
on himself.
parents like are like his dad was a piece of shit too, like from what we know. So it's kind
Yeah.
of like it's learned behavior, but it's just yeah, it's like you have no business being in charge, buddy. And that's why it's unfortunate that all these people get displaced and they have to deal with this. But like at the same time, it's good that Tamlin's not ruling over a court when this is all said and done because he doesn't need to be. He's not good at it. He's shit at it. To be 100% honest. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to sit here and be like he's irredeemable. He has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. He's got a little bit more growth to do in this book. And from what we are being led to believe right now, he is definitely like trying to help in the ways that he can. But it's just, you've already done so much that you're not just going to be able to just change my opinion about you by doing a couple good things. You just gonna take a whole lot more than that. You literally like
Yeah.
threw temper tantrums and hurt somebody that you claim to love. You're also directly responsible for Rhysand's sister and mother being killed. Let's start racking up all the things that he did. And
Yes, that's
everybody's like over here trying to defend him. And I'm not saying he's irredeemable,
yeah,
but
that's not my favorite, but that's not a secret.
yeah, exactly.
I'm a Tamlin hater.
Yeah, we will and always will be Tamlin haters. Sorry. I'm not saying that there's character development that can be done or like he won't do some shit. Like never be my favorite. He will never be like,
Oh,
yeah,
hell
like,
no.
yeah, it'll, yeah,
The fact that he's blonde, I'm like, no,
yeah. I
Look,
just,
not for me.
yeah.
And then someone else who is trash, complete trash, low key, might be even worse than Tamlin. This Baron, who, by the way, also enjoys putting his hand on women. Forgot about that little
He,
moment. I was like,
I did it.
I hate him. I hate him.
He to me is almost like you said, might be worse than Tamlin. To me, when you say he likes to put his hands on women, Tamlin loses temper and explodes things. Baron is like physically assaulting his wife and doing it in a very cowardly way, purposely in places where she can cover it up so people won't know about it. Scum of the earth. If the way that he treats his own children wasn't already indication of that, what we find out about what he did to his wife in this stretch of chapters, like, I'm sorry. If you're that upset with somebody because of the situation they found themselves in, let them go. What the hell is what we find out about them in this situation? I know it's like a little bit later when they actually talk about that, but yeah, what's revealed about him in this stretch of chapters is just like, I already knew he was a piece of shit. He had Jasminda killed. He literally helped beat this woman to death in front of Lucien. It's no secret, but I'm just like,
Hate him.
I'm just like,
Ah, God.
mm.
He's gonna get a really good death. I can't wait to read that.
Actually, yeah, I'm kind of shocked we haven't gotten it yet. Like, I'm ready for Eris
He's
to
gonna
just
be,
take over.
what if he's gonna be like one of the big villains upcoming?
It definitely
But at the same time, it's Baron. I feel like to me, It's not even that he's not scary. He's just an asshole. I feel like you could make him cry easy if you really wanted to.
It's like Tamlin. It's just I don't
Yeah.
understand these little men who, in the grand
Mm.
scheme of things, of things, you do not have that much power. Like when I tell you I was dying laughing when Reese just sent the blast of power through him, and he didn't touch him, but he just disintegrated the chair underneath him, and he just falls on his ass. That's hilarious to me. That's like in a bully in school. You like pull the chair out and they just fall on their ass in front of everybody. It's just a demonstration of this is how much more powerful than you I am. So why are you so comfortable running your mouth to me right now? I don't know. And I do understand Feyre giving Helion a little bit of shit that she gives him later on because I'm like, yeah. And I do have to say, you can only help people that want to help themselves. There is a certain amount of truth to that. But yeah, I would be hard pressed to sit back and watch somebody that I love and care about be abused and I don't say or do anything. Like, law be damned. That's just me, though.
Yeah. I That's so true. That's true. I like Helium, but yeah, at the same time, I'm still understand. I do hope that him and the Lady of Autumn do end up together potentially at some point, but
Hmm.
we'll see. I
Yeah.
feel like they had something.
Something, but I almost feel like it has been tainted at this point just because of events and decisions that have been made. And like I said, I do want to. I really like Helium. I love him. He's a great character. I love like a lot of things about him. That is a hard pill for me to swallow. And if you have to put yourself in the perspective of just if somebody that I love is being abused and if you have a decision to make, it's illegal for me to go to your house and show up at your
Mhm.
door and do something to you. It's going to start a war in this situation. If it's like in real life, you're going to go to jail, whatever could happen. Like you could put yourself in danger. There's so many like circumstances that could end up happening. But at the same time, is she's making the decision. Like he tried to keep her and she was like, I have to go back. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really tough because I don't understand her perspective either of like, why would you be so set on going back, especially if you were pregnant with this other dude's kid and he's willing to
I
keep
don't
you and
know.
protect. Yeah. It's
Okay.
it's it's the law back then. It's Fey law. It's like the whole thing about how like Rhysand had to go get Feyre so specifically in such a specific way because if
That's
not, he would have
true.
started a war. It's
Mhm.
like there's so much other shit going on that certain people wouldn't have even been able to side with him had he made that decision because of what it would have implemented, like in the. So it's just, it's really tough. But yeah, definitely. I understand why Feyre pushed back at him about that because it's like, it's a really tough pill to swallow. Like, that this is happening and you're just not doing anything about it.
Yeah, it's not easy for anyone, unfortunately. I don't know. It's definitely a tough thing to work out because, like, I mean, I've known people in abusive relationships, and even if you offer help, sometimes they don't want it, and it sucks. It really fucking sucks because it's what can I do? And it's like you can't really do anything. You just have to do what you can,
Hmm.
and if they don't accept it, then I don't know. It's really sad, but
Yeah. It's
I hope she gets out of that because I fucking hate him. He's
I really
trash.
just want him to die. She can go be happy. Eris can take
Same.
over the autumn court. Lucian can be the sole heir to the day court, and everything can be hunky dory. Because right now, like Baron is just the most shit character that I can like you said, he's probably worse than Tamlin in all actuality. He's truly a piece of shit. But it makes sense. Him and Tamlin's dad are like of the same ilk. They're just as old. They have fucking bass backwards mentality of this is like just the way that things have been and have always been. And we're men and we're in charge. Like he even is like, women are here as a courtesy. Like they're not here to be heard. Like, dude, can you please shut the fuck up? Like, you're here to be seen, not heard. Like, where am I? Like, where actually am I right now? And then you got
I wish I didn't have to see you, but I
And then you
do.
got Reese over here, whose top officials are all women. And I'm like,
Yeah,
this is what I
like,
love about you, Reese. Like,
as
they're,
you
yeah.
should. You should.
So,
We love women in leadership.
yeah,
Okay.
period. And it's just, I'm so with the whole sexism going on in this meeting right now. But I will say again, I did say earlier on, but Majority of them are not like that, so that's something to be, like, happy about, but the ones that
Period.
are just, ugh,
Are
stand
just
out.
loud,
Yeah, they're very
unfortunately. They
loud.
typically are very loud. I'm like, why are people who are just like have the most minimal views have to be so fucking loud? It's just shut the fuck up,
Yeah,
literally.
that's actually
Please just
that's a great point. Moving on from that, we do get a little bit of pushback from Feyre here. She does respond to Tamlin. She's not just quiet and silent. She stands up for herself. And it's so sad for me when she has to sit there and listen to Reese, like when Tamlin's trying to flip all this stuff on Reese and make it seem like he's like you're all trusting him, but he was aligned with Amarantha and all this stuff. Like knowing what we know, it's really hard to sit there and listen to that. But it's also hard for Feyre because she starts to realize some things that like she didn't even realize, like how bad they were for him. And that's also just another form of abuse that's just, it's terrible. And Reese does have a lot of trauma. And I feel like sometimes that gets forgotten because he is such a powerful character and he's such a Riz on 10 all the time. Like he's always like charismatic and stuff. So it's just, I feel like that gets brushed over a lot. But it's, yeah, this is somebody who's lived through some messed up shit and had to sit back and be a part of some shit that he wanted nothing to do with just to like for the good of his own people. And he had to make some really tough decisions. And it just, it's really tough to hear that. And so finding out just how bad things were with Amaranth under the mountain is a tough pill for to swallow. And also for him to share. He like him to open up like that and do it for the good of if this will bring people together and get people to trust me, then I'll put my own embarrassing and really hard to deal with and nitty-gritty trauma out on the table for everybody to dissect. And so I have some respect for him for doing that. And it's good to see that Feyre cares and is there for him. And I'm happy that he finally has somebody to support him through that because he hasn't for so long. When he finally has had enough, he sits there and takes a lot. Like he listens to Tamlin run his mouth for a minute. But when he finally like is like enough, and the same with Baron, the way that he just like lashes out with his power, but like, he's still just sitting back completely cool. Not he's just sitting in his chair. He just, oh, you want to keep running your mouth about my wife? You can't talk anymore. You can't breathe. You can't think for yourself. You don't have a chair to sit in. I love that. I love those little displays and reminders of exactly how powerful he is because even the other High Lords, like when he does these things, they take note of, oh, yeah, I forgot that he's that guy. He's actually that guy. And I love those little moments for Reese.
period. I do have to mention, I mentioned this last week, but I'm like, I have to mention this. Okay, before the High Lord meeting, we're literally told that there was a ward placed on the room where no one can use their magic. And if they do, they will have consequences, most likely death. But yeah, all these bitches are using their fucking magic. It is such, it doesn't make any fucking sense, Sarah. What?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true.
The
It would have
plot
made
hole.
sense if they had put that in there about Feyre breaking the wards or something with her power because we know she's able
Yeah,
to
or
do
like
that.
Helion being like the spell breaker or whatever the
Yeah.
fuck would have made sense. But it's just all of a sudden everyone's just throwing their powers out. I'm just like,
Yeah, yeah, that's actually great point. Actually, the only people that use their powers though are Reese and Feyre, right?
and
And Azriel.
Azriel. Tamlin pops in some maps out of fucking
That's
nowhere.
true,
So
and
technically Tamlin does too.
Helion uses them. But I'm wondering if the I don't know. I guess I would have to know what the wards were specifically. Is it like against attacking? Is it against winnow? But Tamlin also winnows directly into the meeting at the jump. Like,
Literally.
so yeah, I can't because I was gonna say maybe there's something that like Rhysand has done with the Night Court that like allowed them to break the wards, but it's still just like really that's like a stretch because Tamlin winnows directly into the meeting and
Yeah. I'm
yeah.
pretty sure Baron winnows out
Yeah,
too
he
because he kind of
does.
leaves.
He
So
literally does.
anyway,
Just
the real
Aaron and his
plot
entire
hole.
family. Eris, the Lady of
Yeah, makes
Autumn.
so much sense. It's okay. It's the plot hole of the week.
Yeah.
We should really make that a thing.
Honestly, we should have that little okay, and the plot hole
Plot
of the
hole
week.
of the week.
Hey guys, keep your eye out. We might get that segment.
I love ACOTAR, but they are some plot holes.
Be some potholes in here. We will not deny it. But yeah, so one of the big things that Reese is defending himself against when we get to hear about all that trauma is actually the situation that goes down with the Winter Court. We talked about it a little bit last week, but we'll go ahead and get
Mhm.
into what exactly actually happened in full.
Last week, we talked about how in Callias, they seem to have some type of like tension between them, especially coming from Callias. He's trying to be talkative to Rhysand, but he's still just, I don't know about this guy to him. And it's because he calls Rhysand out during the meeting, saying that basically putting the blame on him because the Winter Court tried to rebel against Amarantha and obviously failed, unfortunately. And in return, she decided to kill 24 of Winter Court children. And Claudius put a lot of the blame on Rhysand because he was like, they were killed by a Daemati. And she made it where she wanted people to think it was Rhysand, even though he wasn't even there when it happens. He explains, no, I had nothing to do with that. I tried to stop it, but I was literally like restrained in her fucking bedroom. There was nothing I could do.
Mm,
But they cleared the air a little bit with that. And his wife, Vane, even says that she tried to stop it too, and she wasn't able to. But it was like a really sad day for the Winter Court. Really awful, obviously, to lose any lives, but especially when it's children.
mhm.
That's really awful, literally murdering children. What is fucking wrong with you?
Yeah, the fucking piece of shit. But it's
She was awful
it's also like extra. It's heinous that children to ever do violence towards children.
and is
Yeah, people who can't defend themselves. Any kind of
literally
that's heinous. But also in Prythian, or not just Prythian, but to the Fae, it's already extremely difficult for them to have children. So every single child is precious as they are, just period. It's like even more of a gut wrench because it's like you can't, children are just so precious to to this society. And it's just even Lucian, when he first gets to Valaris, his first thing that he says is, there's children like playing in the street. It's just, it doesn't happen in this world. And so to just go and murder 12 children because you think that there was somebody plotting against you is just like beyond. It's just she did a lot of sick fucking twisted shit, but that is just, yeah, it's beyond me. And then, like you said, Vane also has guilt about that because she feels like she couldn't protect them. But Reese also probably feels a little bit of guilt about that because it's like he accidentally sentenced these kids to death by trying to save Callias. Like he had no idea that she was going to go do that. Like there's nobody to blame other than Amarantha, to just be 100% clear and concise. Like she's to blame, but it's like by him trying to like turn her attention away from Callias and save his life, that's what made her decide to go after the children. And it's just, God, to have to live with that guilt has got to be really tough. So I definitely feel for him in that moment and just the loss that the Winter Court feels. And I'm happy that they're able to have this moment and air it out and come to an understanding of what actually happened and begin the process of moving on. But yeah, this is just like such a heinous thing. I don't think the Winter Court's going to come back from that for quite a while.
now sorry, y'all. That was really
That
heavy.
was,
I'm
I'm
so
sorry.
sorry. We had to talk about it. We had to talk about it. It is really important, unfortunately, but we still have to learn about all the shit fucking Amarantha did, and this is probably one of the worst things that she did,
Hmm.
if not the top.
Yeah, this
We hate her. Gosh. Yeah, I'm like, she did a lot of really bad things,
So
but this is definitely
the woman is like, when I say good riddance, somebody died, there is no tear. Like,
I
there
don't
is
give
not
a
a
shit.
second about Amarantha. Like, I don't know. Like, God, I don't even, the shit she was doing is just next level. But yeah, fuck her. I wouldn't be content to never hear from her or hear about her again. That's pretty much it for the main part of that meeting. Like when Tamlin first gets in there and interrupts people, Varian, Tamlin does throw shade at the Night Court, being like, and why were these who showed up to help you during the Adriata? How did they know about that if nobody else knew about it? And Varian stands up and he's, because I told them about it. I wrote to my girlfriend and let her know that we were
Yeah.
being attacked.
The one thing that just bothers me some about Tamlin is that he really tries to just make it seem Dan called this meeting because he's actually on Hybern's side. And so he was trying to like throw doubt in the air, being like, why are you the only people to come help the summer court if you're not on Hybern's side? And I'm glad Varian said something because part of me like does see like why Tamlin would think that
Mhm.
because from him, if I was Tamlin, And I'm like, oh, it is weird that y'all showed up, but no one else was told. So,
Yeah.
but it obviously gets cleared out because it's like Varian
Yeah. Thank God for
told
Varian.
Amaret. Yeah, no, literally, can you imagine if Varian didn't? This whole story would be so fucking different because who knows if Tarquin would even show up to this meeting,
Mm.
the night court, cancel the blood rubies, and maybe this meeting literally would have gone so sour. Varian's actually the MVP of this whole book.
Yeah. There's a lot of, like, little moving pieces, like, even Lucien going behind the
Yeah.
Night Court's back and, like, sent the what was it? Was it the actual Fabane that she sent? He said
Yeah, he actually the sample of Fabane, and he keeps it on the DL
mhm.
because he didn't want to get Rickan's hopes up.
Mhm. Yeah, and so there's a lot of moving pieces, and a lot of the little players are actually, like, the reason that they're able to accomplish what they are, and Feyre just being, like, freaking Snow White and just befriending any creature of the forest that will talk to her and getting them all to fight for her. Like, low key, she's the reason that they're able to accomplish what they do in this
Mhm.
war.
Yeah, everything matters.
Yeah. And then just like a little thing that like I noticed that like I understand how somebody can profit from war, but I am very curious. Like they specifically say that like Helion like is probably ready for another war because he basically benefited from the last war. And I was like, how?
That's really weird.
Oh, what did he do? Like, how did he like? What did he like? Make weapons that people paid for? What like? Or I guess like maybe he has spells that he sells. Like,
Maybe. I just feel like benefiting from war in general is so icky.
yeah,
What do you mean you're benefiting from people attacking each other?
yeah.
I don't know, but is it I might be wrong. Is it the day court that is typically neutral or is it's dawn?
Dawn's
Okay. I couldn't
neutral.
remember
Yeah.
if it was day or dawn. Okay, y'all. There's a lot of like, day, dawn, the fuck. Okay, it's the same shit to me.
Yeah. Yeah. They point out very specifically that Baron, Helion, and Reese were the only ones who fought in the last war, who were around for that. So the other courts, like, they weren't even around for the last war. It was just those three. Now we know that Reese wasn't even in charge yet. His dad was, but Helion and Baron were actually like the leaders
Mhm.
of their courts at that time. So
Okay.
I don't know how he benefited? It literally gives no explanation. It just says he benefited from it. And so I'm like, did he sell weapons?
Weird.
Did he sell like people? What? I wish she would have expounded on that just a little bit so I could
Weird
like
thing to
not feel
say.
kind of like, what the hell? Like, who, like, how did he benefit from war? I don't know. But yeah, so as we move on into the meeting, we just get more and more involvement from everybody there. We've talked a little bit about some of the stuff that goes down, but Azriel attacking Eris is just, first of all, Azriel in this meeting lives rent free in my head all the time. Okay. Like, I shit you not. I'm just like, every time somebody says something like about somebody that I care about, I just like in my mind immediately, like, be careful how you speak about my high lady. Dead that
Dude, I would
shit.
not fuck around if Azriel was there. If Azriel and Cassian are there, I'd be like, I gotta be cool. They could literally, they're like trained to kill people and be sneaky.
Well,
I'd be scared.
get a little big for their britches, dude. It's y'all are really not that infallible to just be out here talking. Not everybody's Reese Hand, okay? Y'all Israel took Eris's ass out in 2.2 seconds. And I do not understand how Baron's supposed to be so much more powerful than Eris because something that we'll talk about. I don't even know if I want to bring that up right now, but Eris should be pretty freaking powerful, if not on par with his dad, because another thing, there's just so much. I want to talk about it a little bit later, but I'm getting a little bit of confusion. Do they get some special powers, like when they become High Lord specifically? Like some extra little bit of power? Because I feel like that is something that's said in one of the books. Because Tamlin said something about like when he became High Lord, like feeling the power settle in him, pass from his dad onto him. Do you remember
No,
that?
but I know that like they have to use the High Lord's power in some type of way during Calamite to keep the land good or some shit.
Yeah, but is that because Tamlin is all High Lord, or is it like, or he's the Tamlin's a
I
tough
don't
one
know. I
because
think
he doesn't have any heirs or anything like that. I'm trying to think of just some special because I feel like Reese kind of talks about the same thing. It might be like some special thing, like when you become High Lord, that is like an extra dose of power. I don't know, but that's something that strikes me as odd because I'm like, why the hell? are these people so big in their britches? Azriel and Eris, and Eris doesn't even, he doesn't stand a chance. Azriel is attacking Eris, whooping his ass, and shielding other people from being able to get involved. So he has a shield on the outside of them so nobody can stop him. And then also is whooping Eris's ass in there, shielding himself from Eris attacking him back and literally choking him to death. I'm like, if Azriel, a bastard, an Illyrian, not even a high fae, like, can fuck up Eris like that, why are y'all so cocky? I don't understand.
I don't understand either. Dude, I don't know. Not gonna lie, I feel like the High Lord meeting, it's fun to read, but logically, it makes no fucking sense.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. Cause like when I first read this, of course, I was like eating it up, but now having to dissect it, I'm like, none of this makes fucking sense.
I wouldn't say none of it makes sense, but there's definitely some things that
A
stand
lot
out
of
where
it
I'm
doesn't,
like,
but it's fine. These are books for entertainment, not for everything being like politically
yeah.
perfect. It's just weird to me that all these high lords are just like you said, you're too big for the britches. I'm also like, how do you not talk to each other? Why don't you have meetings more often if you're ruling over the same fucking continent,
Yeah.
same country? How do y'all not discuss these things? It's so weird to me, but
You have
it's
to
cool.
think
I
on
may
it. There's nobody, they're all, imagine if every country in the world had a king, not a president that's elected by people, not a prime minister where there's not democracies. Like these are dictatorships and in cool like rulers or whatever, like where it's like it's just like my kids get to be in charge next. Like it doesn't matter who they are, what they are. Now it's not an elected group of people like getting together and making decisions for the good of their people. It's seven people who get to decide whatever and they all hate each other. Of course they're not getting together. They like think of it as look at what's going down in this meeting. Okay.
it seems like so irresponsible to me, though. I just can't imagine that because it's even in our real world, it's of course not every country's leaders get along, but to some degree, there are countries that do like, I don't know, fucking NATO for fucking example. It's a thing that like a lot of people are in
None
and different like environmental like
But none of those
things like
people are dictators. None of those people are people that aren't elected.
I feel like from the map we get, it's not as big as our world, so I'm thinking of this I think of Prithian as, like, not large. I think of it as maybe the size of Canada, that side of
It's
things.
literally modeled after the UK, so you can picture it as like the
Right,
UK.
yeah, it's tiny. I would just, like, really think that, oh, like, maybe we should get together and discuss what's happening in the world. At least not everyone, but some people, especially right after Under the Mountain. You like all came together to help this human girl. It's I feel that's a moment of like all leaders coming together and doing they wouldn't try to recollect maybe after that and be like, "Oh my gosh, we almost all died. Let's do things differently and make sure someone that never is able to get in power again or something." I don't know. It's just so weird to me. But you know what? I'm
Yeah.
just a citizen,
I get
okay?
I
I'm not in government, so I don't know. But
I
it's
get what you're
just
saying. I just think you're thinking of it through like your perspective of somebody who doesn't have the same mentality as these people. Like you like these people are
yeah, I'm
like
thinking of like
you're thinking of it as somebody who's grown up in a place where we get to vote, we get to have a say. It's not perfect. It's certainly not perfect. But there's checks and balances, right? These people just
right,
do whatever the hell they want. And it's just there's like the only person right now who's checking or balancing anything is Rhysand because he's the most powerful, but who checks him? Like, other than his own inner circle. If he decides not to put those kinds of people in his
right.
inner circle, who's gonna stop him from doing what he wants? And so it's we're lucky that Rhysand is the kind of person that he is, but essentially, I'm not that surprised that somebody like Baron doesn't get together with other people to have them tell him all the things that he's doing wrong when he doesn't give a shit about what they have to say or what they do in there. Like he's just, I rule my territory. And the only reason that he's even here now is because he's concerned that there's somebody who's bigger and badder than him that could affect his way of life. But if that wasn't the case, he'd show up to a meeting even if he was invited. You know what I mean? So it's I totally get what you're saying in the real world
Yeah.
aspect of it, but it's just this is such a different situation. They should, but I also realistically this is probably a lot more how it'd be going down. They struggled to get everybody even to this meeting. You had a bunch of people that hate each other to sit down in a room and agree on something. The only thing that's going to make that happen is a threat that's bigger than any one of them individually. So, yeah. Why are they not getting together with the people from the continents? Like, from every ruler, we find out that there are so many more Fae from so many more different
Mhm.
places and so many different, like, we're only dealing with, like you said, this tiny portion of Prithian. Why don't the world leaders get together? It's just like, this is, I don't know, it's fantasy, but also it's just like how it was back in the day. France and Spain and England didn't all get together and discuss like what they were doing. They just went to war with each other. And and that's how we ended up
Yeah.
are now. So yeah, it's just a different time and place. But yeah, you would think I'm more shocked that they come together and agree to save Reese at the end of all of this. Again, I will get there eventually. If they had not all been gathered under the mountain and witnessed what happened with Feyre and Amarantha, I don't think that they would have ever been able to get that to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So back to the whole Azriel conversation. Yeah, he just loses it. And it's interesting because I think of Azriel as the quiet, calm, cool, level headed one of the group. And he just loses it like when Eris calls Morris slut. He jumps out of his chair and attacks him, almost kills him. And it does make me question the theory because it has been going around a lot. I've heard a lot of people talking about how there's a theory that Az basically doesn't actually care for Morrigan and that he like has her watched so closely and he's so attached to her because he believes that like she may have ill intentions, which I do like that theory for fun. But this moment right here makes me think that just is not the case. He cares way too much about this person for it to just be, I'm watching you because I don't trust you. No.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, actually. 'Cause I'm like, yeah, if he didn't care about her, why would he attack Eris then? So yeah, I think that really does like debunk that theory a little bit. Unless he's like just trying to play it off, but I don't really see that happening. That's too committed. That wouldn't really make fucking sense to be honest to
He
me.
was playing the long game, bro. You are really
Yeah.
trying to make it seem like because Eris and I don't like slut is a terrible insult, but it ain't the worst thing that's said in this meeting about anybody in particular. I've been called, you call me a slut. I'm gonna look at you and be like, okay, good one. Is that the best you could come up with? I don't. It's not that bad of an insult to like literally almost risk losing this alliance that you need to desperately save everybody's lives because somebody called her a slut. More kind of is not in a shameful way, just in a you want to talk about people that sleep around. If that's what a slut is, then okay, I'm all for taking ownership of words that like I don't want a man to call me a slut. I probably would be pretty pissed about that too, but I'll call my girlfriend a slut. Shut the hell up, slut. I don't,
Yeah.
I'm all about taking back words that are supposed to be used against us. I don't want a man to call me a slut, and I would definitely have an issue with that and be like, you need to shut the fuck up. I'm not about to risk my life over something like that.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know.
Like the word bitch. I
Exactly.
love the word bitch. I love saying the word bitch. I think women should use the word bitch, okay? But men shouldn't.
I 1000% agree with that. Because if a man calls me a bitch, I'm gonna be like, really? Like, it's gonna have a different connotation. But I'm also still not
Yeah.
about to lose my life over it. But also, cunt. There's a lot of words. There's a lot of words. A lot of female
I love the
empowerment
word
words.
cunt.
Okay. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Period. That's cunt, bitch. I look cunt. I love the word cunt.
Yeah.
I love it.
And so I'm just like, but of all the insults, let me just say that wouldn't have been the one to make me like almost risk everybody's safety at this place and like kill you over.
That just depends on the person, but if they take offense to it. But for me personally, if someone called me a slut, I'd be like, yeah,
Yeah.
what
I'm
about
like,
it?
okay. Oh, okay.
Thanks. Thanks for calling me hot.
Exactly. Like, good one.
Yeah, I am a sexually active person. Thank you.
Also, like I said, it's not even Tamlin sat there and said way worse shit about Feyre, and
Yeah.
Lucien just sat there and didn't do anything. But Eris calls Mor a slut, and Azriel's over that table, like choking the life out of him. And so it's just okay. all of that is just to say that's not somebody who casually feels something about a person. That's somebody who really like,
Yeah.
you know,
I could totally see I was in public and if a man called me a slut or a bitch or a cunt, I could totally see my partner freaking out over it.
oh,
He would freak out more than me. I'd be like, "Okay." And he would probably be like, "What'd you say?"
yeah, yeah, no, for real. And the same here. Yeah,
I would be like, "Dude, I really don't care."
yeah, yeah,
But that's me, that's me. Some people totally fair if you get offended by that.
yeah.
I understand.
But
But
I think
for
that's
me
the
personally, I'm just like, "Whatever."
exactly. That's how I feel like Moore was just okay. But Azriel was like, not my girl. And it was like, she's
Yeah.
not even your girl, bro. Calm down. She's literally gonna go have sex with another person tonight. But
Period.
but
As she
like,
should.
yeah,
As
go
she
off,
should.
queen. Go off, queen. But I'm just like, she's not your girl. And so I think that is just like so funny to me. He really,
Oh
really cares about
gosh.
her because
Oh,
I know, like
God.
you said, if somebody just says that about me in public, I'm gonna have to like
You
pry
know what's so
Jackie off
weird?
of them with a fucking
Yeah. If it's weird too, because for myself, I wouldn't care again if someone called me that, but if I was, like, out in public and someone called you a
I was
bitch,
just about
I
to
would be
say
like,
that.
"What'd you say?"
Yeah. That's actually fair too. It is
I
true. Yeah.
No, because I would be so upset. It actually has happened before, but
Unfortunately, yeah, we've experienced something like that before, and
it's
I was
so
not
funny.
like it
Oh,
was
no.
like, "Oh, no, 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 not my friend. Oh, hell no." But, like, that is weird how sometimes you get more defensive of other people than yourself. But that's because I love you
Yeah,
and I care about you. But so all of that and vice versa. And that's all of that to say that clearly that is somebody who cares about somebody. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't be over that
exactly.
situation. So yeah, interesting. And yeah, after that, Moore is just like visibly shaken up. And it's not, and once again, it's not because she got called a slut by Ares. It's because she's holy moly, that man just did that for me. Like, and
Mhm.
that like really sends her into another orbit because she can't process that very well. And so we know how she like not even retaliates, but we know how she reacts. And that's by betting Helion later that night, which I mean, go off queen. I don't like, I'm with Feyre. Okay. Why haven't the three of y'all
No,
taken up
literally.
that invitation? But maybe Cassian and Azriel aren't into it. I get that. But
I could see them not being into it just because they're so close.
yeah,
They're so close with each other. It might be weird at that point for them
yeah.
to be like, "Oh, you're naked, and are we touching?" That I could see that being
That
a
was the
little
part for
strange.
me because I'm, like, thinking to myself, maybe they don't wanna be touched. Maybe they would be, like,
Yeah,
down to,
that's
like, if
fair.
they don't wanna be
That's
touched,
fair.
and it's Helium very much seems like he's trying to touch everybody. Maybe that's, like, the situation here. So let me not jump to too much judgment, but I'm with Feyre. I'd at least question it, and they haven't taken up that offer yet? Okay.
Yeah.
But also, like, that it's, like, inserting more into that situation. It's Cassian isn't about to go there when Azriel's like literally his brother and he knows he's in
Yeah,
love
that's
with this
awkward.
woman.
Again, that's
It's
it
disgusting.
would end their
It's
friendships.
like,
It would really end their friendship. So probably for the
yeah, it's a hot
best.
mess.
Probably for the best. So speaking of bitches,
Speaking of serving cunt.
I gotta give some credit to my main bitch, Nesta.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't originally she did not want to come to this meeting, y'all. She was like, I'm not coming to this fucking meeting. I don't know these people. I don't care. But obviously she get a little inspired by Feyre for helping the summer court. So she's, you know what, I am gonna come and I'm going to share what happened to me and Elaine with Highburn so that these people know like what the fuck they're dealing with, which like shout out to you, sis. So everyone's literally like arguing. It's like a shit show. People are throwing shields on each other, making chairs poof away. Fair's freaking the fuck out, going after Baron. Okay.
Chaos is occurring.
It's not going great. Nesta says, "This is my time to shine." She's like, "I've been quiet this whole time, but here I go." And so she gives a little mini speech. I literally can imagine her and Feyre giving their speeches at the very end of the High Lord meeting, House of Dragon style, when it's just like their face only, and they're just like, "I have something to say," and it's very poetic and intense and
Yeah.
dramatic. But basically, she just shares her story of how she was thrown into the cauldron and how really they should be defending the humans below the wall. And everyone agrees with her except for Baron, of course. But he's not gonna think about it. And he leaves.
Yeah.
Which, like, bye. Goodbye. I love that moment for her. She definitely speaks her truth when needed. And also, this is a little like heat moment for me. But Iris calls Cassian, what did he call
A
him? Bastard or
lowborn
something?
bastard.
And she like snaps back at him. And I'm like,
Yeah, she's like,
okay,
"That
sis."
bastard
First
might be the only thing standing between you and death when it comes down to it." Like, cat queen.
period. And Cassian was probably shitting his pants. He was probably like, oh my God, she does like
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, no, for real. That's so funny because I could just imagine in his head, "Okay."
Literally. He's
Uh,
probably like, oh my God, she wants me.
their back and forth in
That's
this
her
part
way.
is so good.
Dude, it kills me. It kills me.
Yeah, Nesta really has a good moment here, just like standing up for humans, which is something she's really passionate about and cares about. So I'm not surprised by that at all. But
Right.
then also just like acknowledging Feyre and the sacrifices that she made when she was taking
Mhm.
care of them. And she's like, I probably would have been one of those humans that starved to death because y'all did nothing to help us after the last war, all of that stuff. She has really got a good moment. She stands up and yeah, I don't know. This is just like the beginning. It's tough because Nesta, I don't know why Sarah J. Maas chose to do this, maybe just for the journey in character development portion of it. So maybe that is literally why. But Nesta does have a lot of character development in this book and then loses almost all of it and then gains it all back. And so
Yeah.
like it is
It
really interesting that she chose to do it like that. But yeah,
right.
I want to say it's the start of a lot of like great character development for her because she's finally starting to step up. She's putting herself out there. She's becoming involved. She's showing that she has a hard understanding and acknowledging that she hasn't always been this perfect person and a lot of that. And so I think that it's unfortunate almost. In some ways, it makes for a great story. In other ways, it's unfortunate because she does start to have such great character development. And then it's like she goes right back into the of
Right.
like
I
whatever she's dealing with.
I think it's literally because she like you said, she has this amazing character development here in this book. But I think really what goes wrong with her is when she sees her dad die and then she kills the king. I guess that was probably her first time ever beheading someone.
Yeah, taking a lot. Yeah.
Because a lot of Silver Flames is like her trying to be okay that her and her dad did not have a good relationship and, like,
Mhm.
she did love him, but she didn't express it really, and neither did he, so, like, it's a really tainted, awkward-ass relationship, but he did show up at the very end, and I think that really rocked her because she was probably like, "Oh, he does love us, like,
Mhm.
oh god," and then he
Yeah,
died. So I think that's really what fucked her up, honestly, the
that's a good
most was
point.
that moment. So I guess, like, then 'cause I was trying to think, I was like, "Did something happen?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, her dad."
That's
And then
true.
she's scared of, like, fires and, like, the
'Cause of the
noise
sound of
of
yeah, yeah.
rocking and can't take baths. So I'm like, "Girl can't do anything." I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
She gets there. She gets
That
there.
is very true. No, that's actually an excellent point, really great point, because that's exactly what it is. Because I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, "Okay, Nesta, like, I'm almost on your side, like, yeah,
Right.
you're going up."
No.
Like, you're feisty, you're fiery, you're owning up to your actions, you're
I'm here
acknowledging
for
other
it.
people, you're stepping up to the plate. I'm like, I'm really liking this Nesta, but then I'm like, she really gets shitty again, but that's exactly what
Yeah, she gets
happens, like
really deep, like, substance abuse too, which
yeah.
doesn't help, so
Yeah, that's true. She definitely starts to take the path backwards, and so she becomes mean
Yeah.
again, all of that stuff,
Mhm.
but that's probably exactly what it is, so good call there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then speaking of just Nesta and people being keen on Nesta, freaking Eris. I'm telling you guys, okay, listen, they may never be a thing. It might just be in my head, but the way he's looking at her when she starts talking, and they say only the lady and Eris seem to be considering, impressed even by the strange shimmering woman before them. Talking about Nesta. Okay,
Period.
okay. Eris already, like, before they made the deal with the Night Court, before he, like, is promised her as a bride or whatever, he already had his eyes on her. And why wouldn't he? She's an interesting woman to say the least, especially amongst a
Mhm.
lot of uninteresting. people right now, not just people, women. But yeah, she's standing out. So I get that. I get it a lot. And yeah, that's the High Lord meeting. At the end, we come to the conclusion that even Tarquin, he doesn't say much during the meeting, but he doesn't end up forgiving the Night Court for coming into his house and robbing him. And all of them agree to end up helping at the end and fight against Tyburn. Baron is the only one that is kind of up in the air about what decision he'll actually make. They're pretty confident that
Mhm.
when Hybern comes knocking on his door and he realizes that he doesn't really have another choice, he's going to go with them because unless he believes that Hybern will win. So yeah, that is where we end the meeting of the High Lord. Now, post meeting.
Yeah, we're still not done, y'all. Jesus.
Yeah.
There's so much. There's so much. Let me set the scene.
Okay.
Okay, y'all. Post meeting. We got a little, not a little, we actually get a huge fucking revelation here, but just set the scene. Everyone goes to their respected rooms, okay? Except the inner circle, and Helion comes in the room with them, okay? So they're all like kind of chit-chatting, really like chit-chatting. And we learn a lot here about Helion, okay?
A lot.
First of all, like everyone's trying to cool the fuck off because what the fuck just happened,
Mhm.
okay? Like Cassie is rubbing Moore's feet.
Yeah, that's
Azriel is just like in the corner. Dude, I hate anything with feet. I'm like, can we not talk about feet ever? Like, this is so
the
fucking
visual in this
uncomfortable.
whole scene is just kind of wild, but okay.
Yeah, and like we're like, so freaking out. But Helion comes in, he sets his ass down, but he just starts oversharing a little bit.
Well, Feyre's over
And he,
asking too.
yeah, there's a lot happening. But he mentioned a little thing about how he has proposed a little, let's say, foursome or really an orgy at this point
Yeah.
with him, Azriel, Cassian, and more.
Oop.
And Feyre's like, huh? She's
Yeah.
like, I might be interested in something like that, Rhysand. And he's like, would you?
Yeah, I think you'd like it. Yeah. Yeah, I think she would too. It does show Feyre in a different light because she is more curious than I would have given her credit for. I always just think of her as like a little
Varian.
bit bland. I don't
Me
want to say
too,
like I hate to
actually.
say that,
She gives
but
me, okay, I can say this because I am a queer person, but she gives me straight vibes. Okay?
Right.
She gives me straight vibes. Doesn't mean she's straight, but if I saw her in person, I'd be like, she gives me straight vibes.
Yeah.
But you know what? Good for her. She's a little curious. We love that.
Yeah.
We love that for her.
Yeah, I would not have
Love that for
expected
her.
that
And
from her.
either, obviously, Helion is our bisexual king.
Oh, Helion is like, I'm here for it all. Okay. Bring him over. Bring him
Period.
over.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. But we find out that his love life has been
Interesting.
chaotic,
Juicy.
juicy throughout the years.
Has
Yeah.
some tea to spill. He doesn't even realize the tea he's spilling too, but
Right. He keep realize.
he really doesn't know. But he talks about the High Lady of Autumn, okay? Remember the first time I read this and I was like, "Dude, 1 second." I reread it a few times. I was like, "Is this what's happening?" And a little bit of history about her.
Yeah.
She got really the best life, as we talked about earlier, but unfortunately, in the last war, Hybern was involved in it, and Hybern actually killed her sister,
Mm-hmm.
and she was running away. They basically sacrificed themselves so that she could get out. She's basically dangling, right, on a wall
I thought she was
or
at the
some shit.
river and they were like the hounds were like coming up on her.
Oh, girl, I
Got
don't know. I
yeah.
might have read it weird. I would read it like she was dangling, but he like go swoop her ass up. But
I thought she was
anyway,
running and she
Helion.
kind of came to a point where she couldn't run anymore and they were catching up to her.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm like, I know there's something she had to stop, and it
Yeah.
was like either dies or someone comes and saves her ass. So Helion saves her ass as the king he is. And they have a little love affair for a few decades. And this is when she was married to Baron.
Uh-huh.
And we also learned that their marriage was arranged. There is nothing between them.
Yeah.
He sucks, as we talked
I mean,
about plenty before. I'm not going to go to detail, but he is abusive and we hate him. But yeah, she had a little affair with Helion and she got pregnant. And that's how Baron found out. And Feyre's like, wait, she was pregnant during your affair? And he was like, yeah. And she was like, and she speaks with Rhysand down the bond, and she's just like, Helion looks so much like Lucien.
Yeah. She's Lucian is Heliod's. And Rhysand's, oh my God, Lucian is Heliod's.
The scandal.
And she's
The
like, you've
scandal.
never thought about this before? He's like, it's never even crossed my mind. It's like, everybody knew that they were having an affair and that this kid looks different than everybody else. And you are good friends with this person. And nobody until Feyre, of all people, is, oh, that's not Baron's child. It's like, oh no shit. Oh my God. I cannot believe that Feyre is the one who had to freaking make that revelation and that they're painting it out to be like Helion still doesn't know. How do you not
It's so wild
suspect?
to me that Helion doesn't know. You would think that he would look at all their kids and be like, oh, that one kid has the same nose as me
Right.
and he has a darker complexion.
Mm.
That's interesting. And oh, yeah, she was pregnant the same time we were having an affair. You think that he would maybe connect the dots,
Baron put it together.
but whatever.
Baron figuring it out.
Someone as fine as Lucien could not be Baron.
Thank you.
And that's on fucking
Even though I do like to think in my mind that Eris is pretty attractive, but he's not as attractive as Lucian. So there you go.
hell.
There you go. So period. But I will say it is just funny to me that that is the case and that nobody has put this together up until now. And all I can think about is maybe Helion's never seen Lucian. Like maybe he knows of his existence,
Was
but
he
he's
seen
never
around?
met him.
Wasn't he under the mountain
Oh, yeah.
with
Yeah,
Lucien?
actually,
He had
yeah,
to
you're
literally
absolutely
watch the
right. Actually, you're
trials
right.
with
You're absolutely
Lucien.
right. He was in the thing with Varian. Yeah, that was, yeah, you're right.
Anyway, doesn't really make sense, but
Yeah,
it's fine.
not plot hole of the week. No.
Hole number 2 of the week.
Yeah, it is very hard for me to believe that nobody else in this fucking universe has put two and two
Yeah.
together, and Feyre's ass had to be the one to figure it out. But okay, let's take that with a grain of salt. Feyre figures it out. Rhysand is shocked. Shocked. Rhysand, who can
Okay.
read people's minds, shocked. Totally perplexed by this situation. Got it. Okay.
Anyway, I think that this might be telling us that eventually in the next book, if we ever live to see it,
If we make it.
I'm sorry, y'all. Every week we gotta throw a little dig. 1 week, hopefully, in the nearer future, we can be like, wow, the book is announced. But,
Announcement.
it's only August of 2024. And the last book came out 2020. And it's totally cool. But I think that eventually they're gonna find out like at the same time and they're gonna be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
It would make
I
sense for
don't
Lucian not to
would
know
that-
yet.
Yeah, there's no way he would know.
Yeah. But it would
It's
not make
really-
sense for Helion to be so shocked. I'm sorry.
Because, I get Feyre's POV that she doesn't think that he makes a connection. But what if he does know? But I'm like, I don't think so.
That is true too.
Yeah.
Helion seems pretty open. I don't know. Yeah. But okay. A very important detail that we find out here is that Lucian's mom, the reason, because Feyre points out that if Lucien isn't Baron's child, then why does he have fire as his like power? And Rhysand says Lucian's mom comes from a very powerful magic line, and that is actually why Baron was so intent on marrying somebody from that family, because her family's magic is so strong. Just keep that in your mind as you're reading these books. What is the powerful magic line that she comes from that is specific to the fire, and like why is her family so strong, and why was that connection so important? Very curious about that. And yeah, that is pretty much all to say about Helion at this point. But big revelation there. Huge revelation. I remember the first time I was reading and I was like, shut the up.
Same. I was like, wait, what? Period. And then when I reread it, I noticed all the little hints.
Oh, yeah.
Of Vera noticing like Lucian's
Darker skin.
complexion is darker. And I'm just like, oh, I never thought anything of it. I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
go off.
She was definitely setting it up.
I know, I'm like, "Okay, it makes sense." It was a little I love shit like that in
Yeah.
books where you go back and you read it and you're just like, "Oh my god, it makes
You're like,
sense." I love
"Oh,
it.
this meant something." But it's also,
Yeah.
like, such a good moment to find that out after we really get to see for the first time what an actual piece of shit Varian is, to then get that little nugget of, "Oh, and by the way, your favorite character is actually not his son." And it's like, "Oh, thank God. Thank God he doesn't hail from the piece of shit." Like,
Literally.
so, Nesta comes back in at this point in a big way, and Helion tries to holler at her for a second. He's looking at her again. He's like, who are you?" And Nesta just straight up is like, "I don't care." He's like, "Hi, let me formally introduce myself. I'm Helion." She's, "I don't care. I need to talk to you. I don't feel good. Something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but I'm telling you right now, something's not right. Okay. I feel it in my bone." And to be fair, they take her seriously, but
Mhm.
they can't figure out what's wrong. They check the wards, they check the surrounding area, they check all the other rooms in the Dawn Castle, and they can't find anything wrong. Yeah, they check on everything and they just cannot figure out what it is that could be wrong. Like I said earlier, they think
Mhm.
she could be poisoned. They're like, "What the hell? What's like, what
Yeah.
is going on?"
Puking
Yeah,
too.
she's
I'm like,
throwing
"What?
up.
We get these bitches some Pepto-Bismol." Damn.
See, I don't know if Pepto Bismol works
Seriously,
for
it's
this
like,
one.
"Girl, there's an alchemist. There's an alchemist, girl. I know you know how to make little tummy ache survivor things, okay?" Like, Jesus
Somebody should be
Christ.
doing something because, yeah, these girls are puking everywhere. But yeah, it is just really, they try. At least I have to give them that. They do try to figure out, they take her
Yeah.
seriously. They try to figure out what's going on, but nobody can figure it out. So they all go
I can't
back to
figure it
their
out.
dinner or whatever until the next day when they realize what the fuck went down. And it's finally revealed here that Reese is a little bit thinking that Cassian and Nesta might be mates. There's no way to know. No way to know for sure.
They are. Obviously, literally obviously. Oh
But
my
yeah,
gosh. I love their build up.
Rhysand
Sorry, y'all.
is suspicious at this point. So yeah.
As he should. I get so geeked up about them. I love them. I'm waiting for another couple in a romantasy book to give me the same feelings I have with them.
Yeah, I think that you're gonna have a hard time finding another couple like that unless they're not the main couple of the book.
They're literally
Because
so
there's no way to do that slow of a build up through 4 books if they're the main couple. No one's
no, they're
taking
literally
her
my favorite couple
on.
ever.
Like,
I'm like, I compare every couple to Cassian and Nesta at this point because I'm just like, I like a bitchy female and like this guy who is like a warrior, but like super nice and goofy. It's my favorite shit. Oh, anyway, the bird. I love it.
yeah.
Love it so much.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for after the meeting. That's the main big stuff. After the meeting, they show back up the next day, and we know that Nesta lets them know about the cauldron. They're all struggling to get along, but they get that shit together real quick when they realize that Hybern is already making the first move. So
Mhm.
now we're back at the night court. We are trying to figure out what the hell we're about to do because it is on. We are out of time. Hybern has beat us to the punch. We don't have time to sit here debating anymore. We got to get to action. So they're going back, and of course, the first concern is what are we going to do about people in the human realm? Because now that the wall is knocked down, they have no protection whatsoever. Hybern is just coming for them. They throw out a couple ideas. Ness is like, the people are not just going to evacuate now. We should have done it already. They're not just going to leave. We're going to have to come up with something else. Rhysand, can you move them to another location? And Rhysand's like, actually, no. I can't do that. That's not going to work right now. But Elaine's like, they could go to Grayson's. And they're all like, okay, girl, like,
Girl, what?
what are you talking about? She's like, well, I mean, they hate you guys more than anybody else in the freaking world. And they have all these defenses to keep people like you out. So they might actually be the best bet. And Erica's like, that's shade, but it makes sense. It actually adds up. That does equate to what like would be the best place for these people to go. So that is going to be the case, but it's dodgy because Elaine clearly still is not over this man yet, and she's convinced that she's the only person who can convince him to consider doing this. But meanwhile, she's got to present herself like she's not Faye because he hates Faye so much.
Mhm.
They have these dogs that are designed to snip out Faye, so it's like putting herself at risk. Nesta, of course, is not about to let her girl go without her. So Nesta's going as well. Yeah, this is a little bit of a gamble, but it's the best option that they have in this moment. So Elaine is headed to the Grayson estate. Cassian, Rhysand, Feyre, they're headed to the Illyrian war camp because they need to get those people in action right now, and they don't respect anybody. So Rhys has to go deal with that to put them in line and get them to basically fall into line. But before they go, Feyre has one last task of grabbing Amryn, who is sulking in her apartment, pissed the fuck off that she got bested by Highburn. She is not happy that Highburn beat them to the punch with the wall because her and Nesta have been studying for months at this point, weeks at least, trying to figure out. And they were so close and they were like, we just want to wait. And then now that they waited, Highburn has made the move and Amryn takes it a little bit personally. But Feyre's like, look, you're coming with me. Hail Mary. We got one chance to get Bryaxis, which she doesn't know the name yet, but we find out Bryaxis in this point. We got one chance to get Bryaxis to help me. You're coming with me. She takes Amryn down there. They make the bargain. All Bryaxis wants is a window. We talk about how sweet Bryaxis is for just a second. Like, Bryaxis is painted as this evil, menacing demon. Cassian is freaking terrified of it. And all it asked for was a friend and a window.
That's so sad. That makes me so sad.
Like,
I'm just
really
like, low
is.
key, I feel like if Cassian got over his fear of looking at Bryaxis, I feel like they'd be like such good friends.
Yes, like Cassian would be the
You know,
perfect
like little
person
cutie
to go down
pies.
there and talk
I
to them.
know.
Aww.
It's totally cool. I like Bryaxis.
No, me
At least.
too.
We'll see. Because we know that he disappears after the war. Nothing is ever heard from him again. So we'll probably see Bryaxis in the future.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it in our theories portion. So stick around for that if you want.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If you're interested, it'll be fun. This will be a good one. Bryaxis is making a big appearance because this is the first time that we get Bryaxis' actual name. We get a little bit more details and we find out like just a few more things that lead me to have some theories. But yeah, they strike the bargain. Feyre agrees. Goddamn, all the thing wants is a fucking window and a friend. I think y'all could deliver on that. It's actually sad that the thing even has to make a bargain for that.
Well, if that's all you fucking want.
like,
Because like even the bone carver is just, I don't even want to leave my place. He's like, I just want bones.
yeah, that's true.
And a mirror.
And a mirror. Yeah, that's pretty much the bulk of what happens towards the end there. So that is where we leave off at the end of this stretch of chapters. It is at the end of part 2. We are done with the setup. We are officially in the war. Okay. From here on out, shit is balls to the wall. Everything matters. Every moment matters. Like, we have got to get our shit together. We've got to figure this out. So there's no more debating. People are going to have to pick sides and decisions are going to have to be made. Let's go ahead and talk about some foreshadowing and world building that we have going on in this stretch of chapters. And just foreshadowing, Pharaoh's questions in this part if Eris would have grown up to be a good guy if he had a different father. And she questions if it's actually possible that he really is a good guy under the surface. And I think that is for foreshadowing for the fact that, like, first of all, we already know that he's working with the Night Court currently, but that could be to get good faith and to get what he wants out of them. But we know that he ends up actually being a pretty decent guy in the future. Like, from our perspective of what we learn about him in the future books, I would say he's a good guy. I personally think Eris is a good guy. I think that's something that we're going to get coming down the pike if it's not already confirmed. It's still a little questionable, but I think we're on our way for it to be there. And as far as world building goes, we have Jian. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's basically another part of the continent, which this is what I was talking about earlier when I was saying, like, it's like outside of Prithian, there's other Fae realms that have like leaders and stuff. But this is another part of the continent, and it's where the majority of Thesen's people are from and where his mother came from. Now, they have a little bit of a sordid past because they actually fought against the Rhysand and them side, Prithian side technically, and they fought with the Loyalists, which is like who Highburn is basically, in the last war. And we also get the little inkling that Feyre questions if Amryn actually modeled her own features after a similar bloodline when she bound herself into her Fae body. Now, the one reason that I wanted to talk about this is because there was a comment on one of our videos a couple weeks ago. It was the ACOTAR deep dive, chapters 22 through 27. And we were talking about where Amryn found this body that she bound herself to in the prison because she was supposed to be in the prison alone or whatever. And somebody was saying that she made the body, wasn't like a body that she found. And this leads me to believe that comment was correct and that this person was right. And basically that she chose to make a body because the quote is, I wondered if Amryn had modeled her own features after a similar bloodline when she bound herself into her Fae body. So I think that is just like definitive proof that is accurate, that she didn't take a body, she made a body, which I don't know how that works, but I'm assuming that is like what this comment alludes to. So I did want to point that out. That commenter was correct. And also that, and this is where I should have looked up the pronunciation on this because I do not want to mispronounce a real place. But what I believe is pronounced Xi'an or Xi'an is a city in China in a real life or in the real world. It used to be known by a different name that translates to eternal peace and was the home of many of the ruling houses of the dynasties in China. And it marks the start of the Silk Road and is actually where the terracotta soldiers that you always see that are famed come from. So that's just like really interesting. And I'm assuming that this is basically what she modeled these people and the culture of this other place on the continent from would be that city in real life. That's just my assumption. It's just pretty close. It's almost the
That
exact
makes
same
sense.
name. And I do think that the portrayals of seeing Amryn as an Asian person is and the same with Decent too, but he's half. So I am curious about where his father is from and who his father's line is. But I don't know if we'll ever find that out. And also another world building moment, we get a little bit more focus on the mother here. Nawan makes a comment about how the mother has provided us with everything we need on this earth. So it has been a matter of finding what exactly she gave us in Prithian to combat a material from Highburn capable of wiping out our powers. Now, this just caught my eye because we know that there is no gods in Prithian. They don't necessarily worship gods anymore, that they have left that behind, but they do all seem to still worship the mother. They use it in pretty much everyday conversation and sayings like bless the mother, mother bless you. And the same thing with the cauldron, they're interchangeable. And we know that the mother is actually the one who spilled the contents of the cauldron when the creating Prithian and the rest of the world that this story takes place in. And that Tamlin has that mural in his office of like the literal hands spilling it onto the earth. We
Mhm.
just get a little bit more information on the mother. But yeah, I would say we know they don't necessarily worship the gods anymore, but she is worshipped as a god. And it's pretty much everyone if you go by what they talk about and what they say in this story. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then finally, we've talked about this so many times. I hate to keep talking about plot holes, but unless this gets addressed in some later book, Helion says, I wondered where it went, that little bit, so small, like a fish missing a single scale. But I still felt like whenever something brushed against that, or I still felt it whenever something brushed against that empty spot. Okay. So when the High Lords give Feyre their blessing or whatever, they literally give a piece of their power. Their power is this tangible thing that's a part of them. And when they give it to her, they give her this tiny little piece of their power that is still connected to them. They can still feel, and that's what gives her ability to use magic. So when they all do the same thing to Rhysand, how is it that Rhysand doesn't take on any of these abilities?
I'm hoping it's addressed, but it's like either he's just not telling anyone, but you would think that then the High Lords now know that, like, oh, some of our power is going to be taken away. You think that they would at least mention that or mention afterwards, like, oh, yeah, I can definitely tell. I don't know. Like,
He's already so
it
much
doesn't make
stronger than all of them that, like, I don't know. I just,
it doesn't make
I
sense.
digress.
Okay, again, these books are a mess, but they're fun.
They are
Fun.
they are fun. I don't even, it's just,
I don't read these books to be like, oh, this is a literary masterpiece. I read these books because I like the characters.
yeah,
I like the journey of characters and stuff. I'm
yeah.
like, I know damn well these books are not written where it makes sense.
Yeah, not everything, for sure.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Sometimes they feel a little disjointed, like maybe so much time went or like you had this idea that you just let go of and then switch to something else. But this is something that's been bothering me. You can go back for episodes. I've brought it up several times, but it's like either he's lying, he's hiding it from everybody, or this is a plot hole. Because Reese should now be the Avatar as well. He should be so freaking power.
Yeah.
He should be able to use fire, ice, water. What else can these do? People do break wards, do all this stuff. Plus, he should be the most powerful Daemon that's ever walked the earth. And I'm not saying that he isn't. I'm just like, how is this not addressed? And how was it that when they all gave their power and they all willingly made this sacrifice that they didn't even question that was going to happen? Nobody ever brought it up again. I don't want to keep harping on it because it's something, like I said, that we talked about several times and hopefully it just comes to fruition. But yeah, that is something that I'm keeping my eyes on, something that I'm curious about, and something that will just, if we ever get the next book, I will be focused on Hawk, what is going on with Reset.
Hmm.
That said, I don't think there's too much more on foreshadowing or world building or anything in this stretch of chapters. We have covered pretty much everything. There is a little bit more foreshadowing in the next section, but it does have to do with another series. I'm going to go ahead and give a spoiler warning now. Thank you for staying with us so far. We really appreciate you guys being here, but this is your warning that if you have not read all three of SGM series, including House of Flame and Shadow, we will be touching on events that occur in all three series starting now. Okay, let's go ahead and get into our first Master's connection, which is to do with Nesta.
Yes, I just wanted to point out this isn't a theory or anything, it's really just a connection. But I wanted to point out that I really think that Nesta helping out in the High Lord meeting and her little speech is such foreshadowing for her helping Bryce in House of Flame and Shadow when Bryce asked to use the mask, and at first she's no, and she's just there's like children and there's humans who are gonna die, and she's just like, all right, well, now I fucking have to help you. That's like her soft spot.
Yeah.
I like seeing that consistent trait throughout the book because I was a little bit nervous for a minute when I was reading House of Flame and Shadow, just as knowing like how Bryce and Nesta ended off like in the first part of the book. I was just like, oh my God. I'm like, girl, please help her. But I could see her not helping her. But I'm really glad. I'm really
Yeah.
glad she did. Because it makes sense, especially now reading this. I was just like, oh my God, this is literally foreshadowing for that. And I love that. So I wanted
Yeah.
to point that out.
Yeah, she definitely made the right decision in the end. And I was like more shocked
Mhm.
that more people weren't on her side. Like I get Rhysand's point of view from the perspective of being a ruler, but I really like, I don't know why in my mind, I was just thinking, oh, Prithia's gonna be down to help, bro. They're gonna be like, oh, these people understand. They're the dreamers. They're gonna come and help. And that was just not what ended up happening. And so that's one of the things that I was shocked by when it came to House of Flame and Shadow. I am happy that Nesta made that decision in the end and it ended up being the right one. So good job,
Yeah.
Nesta. The
Yeah.
main portion of our theory is there is several. Now, I want to go ahead and just be real with you guys. We are having a little bit of like connectivity issues and stuff right now. So we're speeding through these last parts. It's just because we're trying to get the
Yeah.
full episode out and talk about everything. So if it is a little rushed, I'm so sorry. It's not normal, I know, but we are just trying to get through this as quickly as possible because of that. That being said, I want to talk about Bryaxis and why they are locked in the basement or in the bottom of the library. First of all, I get the perspective from what we hear in these chapters that they were also locked down there by somebody. And it did make me question if it was the same High Fae who locked them away as the one who locked the Bone Carver away. And obviously we've talked several times in the past about the connection to the Archerons and how that could be their Fey ancestor. And so there is just a lot of speculation about that. But I also found a theory about that. Brave Peaches on Reddit was actually posing this question as well and what the connection could be. So we will link these articles because I have three different ones. We will link them in the description below so you can take a closer look at them. But Brave Peaches was talking about that it is pretty much universally accepted amongst the fandom that the Archeron sisters are descendants of this HM like we've talked about several times before, and it just makes sense. This person draws the connection that Bryaxis in the real world was an ancient Greek sculptor, and that Bryaxis, along with three other sculptors, was commissioned to sculpt one side of the tomb for her husband and her brother. The queen who commissioned Bryaxis and the other three sculptors to do this went by the name of Artemis or Artemisia or whatever. And she was actually named after the Greek goddess Artemis. And basically, Artemis translates into the goddess of the hunt, wielding a bow and arrow, making her a literal archer. which we know the Archerons. Also, her counterpart to that is Deanna, who is another connection that we've talked about in past episodes before. So this person is drawing parallel to the fact that Bryaxis could have been involved with the ancient Fae warrior and that this is that connection. Bryaxis literally worked
Mhm.
for this ancient Fae warrior who is actually Deanna, Artemis, whoever it is that is their ancient Fae ancestor. So that's a really interesting thing that I found that I suggest reading on. Like I said, the link will be in the description below. But then another theory that I found, and this was the one that I thought, and so this was pretty interesting to read about. But Yas the Bookish, who is actually a very popular book talker or book Instagram or whatever. I think we follow her. But
Mhm.
she has a post from a couple years ago, and it's talking about Bryaxis and the description of Bryaxis. It says, and through it all, Bryaxis, all I could make of it was a blur of ever changing claws and fangs and wings and muscle, shifting and whirling within that dark cloud that struck and smothered. Blood sprayed everywhere where it plunged into screaming soldiers. Some seemed to die of pure terror. So the connection here is basically Bryaxis knew the Bone Carver a long time ago, however long ago before they got locked in the prison. And when the Bryaxis joins the war, he's literally described like a demon of hell. So the question is Bryaxis put there by one of the seven lords of hell to protect the portal that is in the library that is literally the portal into hell. Is that why Bryaxis lives down there? And is that why a court of silver flames, when Bryaxis when Bryaxis is gone, why Nesta can hear and feel the presence of those things in the library?
Right. Ooh, I like that. I like that one a lot. That would make sense.
Mm,
So on board that the library is a portal to hell because it just makes fucking sense. Literally makes
it
sense.
really
It's
does. Yeah.
get us on the points of there's 7 levels, 7 princes of hell, and a court of silver flame. There's like a cat that follows Nesta around, and I'm like, oh, okay, interesting.
And she compares it to a womb, which is a connection to the Taurus Sesame, which would also make sense if it was a portal that went to both places. It just a lot of similarities to other things going on in the world. And it makes sense if Bryaxis is literally a demon from hell. It's like how he's described and just even Cassian being terrified of it. Other descriptions we get of demons
Yeah.
in Crescent City. This makes so much sense to me. And I'm wondering, and it's almost sad because it's like Bryaxis has feelings and like a heart. And it
I
does make me
know.
question very much so like where Bryaxis went after the war. Did it escape? What, like, where did it go? So, since it's not back at the library, I'm not sure, but it would make sense why things start getting a little bit funny down there after they disappear. And then the final theory that just struck me as crazy. I've never thought about this, but this theory was very interesting to me. And it's only from 8 months ago. This theory is that basically Bryaxis could possibly be a part of Azriel. It says if he is not, it seems like he may at least be one of his subjects because we know that Azriel is like commander of a lot of different subjects. And it says Bryaxis is described as nightmares and darkness and mist. Who else is described this way throughout the books? Azriel. It
Agreed.
says, again, Nesta could have sworn that phantom touch caressed her neck, her cheek, her brow. Happy solstice, she said into the beautiful fractured darkness. Who else is described that way? Azriel. So
Yeah.
he actually has the same lived experience as Azriel with being trapped away, locked in a tower, with like out being able to interact with anybody. He was locked away by his stepbrothers and his stepmother. He all he wants is for somebody to come tell him stories about life and see the sunlight and the moonlight and the stars. It basically is saying that that doesn't sound like a demon from hell, but like a sad child that's terrified to leave home because it's like the only home it's ever known, but it's also desperate for sun and light. And basically just comparing that to Azriel's journey. Like I said, this is not my theory, but it's one that caught my attention and is really interesting to me. I highly suggest reading it and thinking about it and letting me know in the comments if you do read it, what you think. It's literally all of the things that Azriel didn't receive as a kid, like light, air, love, all the
Hmm.
things that he was deprived of or whatever. And it basically says, I theorize that Bryaxis might have been a part of Azriel at one point, especially if he is potentially a prince of hell, which is something we've discussed before, or some reincarnation of a god. This is really interesting. They have a ton of quotes, a ton of different parts of the text that leads to that. So I highly suggest checking that out. It's something I've never thought of, but now that I have seen this article or this theory, I am literally going to be looking into this a little bit more. I think all three of those theories could possibly have some truth to them. We won't really know
Mhm.
until we get the next book or even possibly the book after that. So who knows? But yeah, those three were just really interesting to me. And I think Bryaxis is a big question and probably a bridge to a big thing that we are not quite realizing
Right.
yet.
Love all those.
Okay.
I really like the Roxas' demon from hell guarding. I love
Yeah.
that. Like, my favorite one. I could totally see all of
Yeah.
these, honestly. But yeah, we're definitely gonna see him again.
I think that the connection with him being with the Fey Warrior as well as could still be true, and he could still be a demon from hell. So like those two things are not
Yeah,
necessarily
for sure.
exclusive. The Azrael thing is the most out there, but just
Mhm.
saying some things that really struck with me, the whole idea that he's not a scary demon. He's like a child who's just vulnerable and is like, I just want a friend. I just want to see the sky. It is like, damn, that's really true. Even if it's not part of Azrael, it's almost like I wonder if there's something else going on there. And the only time I've ever seen anything like that. But I think that him being like a demon from hell who's literally down there guarding the portal is definitely possible. So I'm gonna look into that, take some more time to flesh out some theories. And since we're hurrying this up, I don't want to spend too much time on it. But if you guys have any thoughts about it, please let us know in the comments below. And make sure you check out those Reddits because each of those people has put together such a really good in-depth analysis of everything that I talked about. And I just think if you are interested in this kind of stuff, it would be really beneficial for you to check that out. So we will make sure that they are linked below. With that being said, we do hope that you guys enjoyed our discussion today. I know it was a little bit all over the place. We were rushed at some parts and we just really went into some other parts, but this is fun. In our next episode, we will be moving on to part 3 with chapters 51 through 63. Please email or DM us anything you'd like us to talk about in our upcoming episodes. And finally, again, if you have made it this far, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us out so much, and we really appreciate it. If you're listening on a podcast platform, please leave us a review or take some time to rate the podcast. And either way, share us with your bookish friends and give us a follow over on our social medias at Instagram and TikTok. They will also be linked below. We have a ton of bookish content over there, a really fun time, clips from the episodes, memes, polls, all sorts of different stuff, as well as keeping you up to date with all news, romantasy, and any podcast updates. So please give us a follow over there. Make sure that you are staying up to date. And as always, we want to leave you with a quote. And today's quote is, kindness can thrive even amongst cruelty. All right, guys.
Period.
Bye.